Proper Football Live Show. Sundays at 6 p.m. for your football fix on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and PF Radio. Check out our website at properfootball.co.uk.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday. It's a bit nippy out there today, guys. Cold freeze on the way. Another Sunday evening and Proper Football Live. And we welcome Dan back on. He wasn't with us last week, Greg was. And we welcome Geoff back as well, because we were halfway through a conversation this week that was raving quite well. So we're going to carry on with that conversation. But let's just let's go around the table and see how everyone is. Cally, how are you? Have you had a good week?
Yeah. Just been getting on with things and watching the managers' merry-go-round. I think that's going to be starting soon. A few managers under pressure this week, isn't there?
Not many. Jeffrey, how are you, sir? I'll say Jeffrey. You might not like that, Geoff.
Yeah, only my mother calls me that, my wife. No, I've had a good week, quiet week. Disappointing result yesterday, but by all accounts, we played well. Took over 300 people down to Southend for an FA Trophy game. Especially the early rounds.
I've got a picture of you lot. We'll put it up in a bit. Brilliant away support, in my view, all the way at Southend, but there we are. And Daniel, you've not been with us for 2 weeks. How you been?
No, I've been good, mate. I've been busy on the website, Proper Football website. Everyone should check out www.properfootball.co.uk. You can see it down the bottom there. No, I've been good, mate. Bit of a rubbish result with Palace earlier, but against Chelsea. But yeah, other than that, I'm all right.
Other than that, right. Guys, so people, let's just see who's jumped on. So all you people listening, remember you can get involved by jumping on, putting your chat in whatever platform you're listening on, and we'll get it here. Well, hopefully we do. I haven't got any come up yet. Have any of you seen any comments come up yet, or is it just me?
No, nothing yet, mate.
Oh, okay, cool. So, yeah, you can jump on and ask us a question or join in the conversation and give your viewpoint and opinion across as well. But all I would ask is please share it. And subscribe on YouTube if you would be so kind. Right, we're going to get straight to it, but we have got a funny section. We've got our good old days section coming up, a few other bits and bobs to talk about. We'll have a couple of highlights of games this weekend that each of us decided we'd like to highlight. But let's get straight into the nitty-gritty, which we didn't finish last week. Good evening to Ian Hells in the chat room. It's not a chat room, it's comments. Just put your comments on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube, and we will get them. Okay, now, we ended the show last week on me opening up the conversation, reference all the rather big changes that have been proposed by the Premier League, realistically, or the top 10 sides, I guess. Some really big changes that they're proposing. Now, we talked about the FA Cup ones last week. We didn't really talk in great detail, but they're proposing, obviously, no replays, which I think we all agreed didn't really suit the lower league clubs. They are proposing in the Carabao Cup that if you're in Europe, you don't have to play, or you can field an under-21 side. So you've got them changes, which we touched on last week. But there's numerous other changes being proposed. And one of the craziest was the proposal, and I don't know how deep they are about this, but of the game being 60 minutes. So you play 60 minutes, and then obviously the ball is timed out to play through, which will eventually mean that you will play 90 minutes because the amount of time the ball is out of play. And they've been doing all these analytical views of games, and they go back to one a few years ago where they said, I think it was Stoke, Middlesbrough, possibly, where the ball was only in play for 34 minutes. And they've done all this anyway. So that's one of the crazy changes, amongst others. So I put to you guys, and this is where I want us to open up the conversation, and you guys and girls listening as well, please join in with your view, is that we're already experiencing major change in football. VAR, which I'm not a fan of. You've got all the different technologies. You've got the footballs in elite football now with all the gimmicks in them to tell them what they want to do. You know, they're talking about this, you know, time added on malarkey or playing 60 minutes. Is this football that we know? Is it, you know, the way I see it, and here's what I'm going to give you. I look at cricket, and now cricket, once upon a time, was Test cricket. They then developed Test cricket and changed up into a new format, which was the 1 days. Then you went into 2020 and all the different variations you now have of cricket. If you look at rugby, once upon a time it was just one game. Now it's 2 separate games, although very different. It is still rugby. And I'm beginning to envisage that the elite football teams and all these different rule changes and I guess technology, are we going to see football become 2 separate entities? Are we going to see...
It already has. Yeah.
Well, no, from a financial point of view, but I mean the way the game is played.
Well,
the have-nots.
Yeah,
right?
VAR's a separate game in the Premier League, isn't it? It's even separated the FA Cup games. Some games have VAR, some don't. Whoever's got it.
They haven't. You're absolutely right. And again, that's a good subject as well. I mean, you know, there's no level playing field in the cup. If you've got one club having to play with VAR, one not. What I mean is the extent of changes that they keep banging in, the amount of Americans getting involved in the game, which you know will lead to a commercialisation again, even further. Are we going to see 2 different types of football that are completely different almost? Although, do you see where I'm coming from?
Like, yeah, no, I see you're coming from.
I've got to ask, Gary, I mean, where is all this coming from? Is this dripping down from sort of like FIFA to our level? Have they all got together and started, right, let's, I mean, a 60-minute game just sounds crazy to me. I don't care how
it's
they...
We know, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, I'm lucky. The games I watch, it's Watts and all. I mean, it's miles away from Premiership. I know you lads query, you know, about referees and linesmen. At our level, it's unbelievable. They're learning the trade. We've got them at our level, and hopefully they progress. But we've got to put up with all the mistakes. But I just can't see, like Dan said, it's already different with the VAR in the Premiership. I can accept that. I'm not a great lover of it, but I can accept it. But if you start making too many changes and it can't be implemented in like the Championship and the first and second division, you're causing a big gap, you know. And I just don't see. I don't see why they are meddling. I mean, the FA Cup games, you've got to have replays for clubs like I support. It's our bread. It's a dream to get Man United. You know, it's a dream to get Newcastle, Liverpool, something like that. You can't take that away. The Carabao Cup, that's fine. You know, I mean, half of the time, Man City are putting under 21s out or a reserve team out and weakened teams. We shouldn't allow them not to take part in that competition. This carry on if they're in Europe, that's a non-starter for me. But that's sort of like I say, at my level, I look up and I think no more changes.
I mean,
it's
Nigel,
all geared to the Premier League. Sorry, go on, Nigel. Go on, mate.
I was going to say, Nigel, as an ex-player, I mean, you've already seen the changes in how the game. Let's be honest about it. The game is quite soft compared to what it was before. The players are very protected. You don't get the crunching tackles, although they seem to have more injuries these days than they did then. I mean, but the injury list some teams have got is crazy, being that they are very protected. So you from your playing days has already seen major change just in how they play the game in terms of you know, getting the crunching tackles. You know, you can't have the hard men anymore. You know, it's. I mean, what do you make of them? The way they're looking to change the game you played and loved.
Well, I don't agree with the 60-minute thing. I think that's a load of crap. Football's always been played over 90 minutes, and the ball going out of play has been part of the game. And what I don't, I think they should carry on with is adding time on for time wasting, because there seems to be a lot more people going down towards the end of the games trying to kill up for a bit of time and stuff like that. So they've got to keep that into it. But getting back to the days when I played, I just think that players are soft these days. I think they're not brought up hard. I think they get slightest injuries. They're on the injury table. Is it touch and go when I'm going to play or not? We sort of learn to play through injuries. You need to get your ankle strapped up and get out there for the next week. That's what happens. But it's a different breed of players these days. Like I said, every inch of technology is being used when they're training, what they're eating, what they're drinking. It's completely different these days. But I don't think, if it goes to 60 minutes, what's next? What, 4 15-minute sections and adverts in between? And
I see that happening, because I think the money that comes in from the football will dominate, and especially with the American influence that is more and more coming into the game. I predict that already. I predict you're going to get that, because they're going to want that for the American TV public.
All these changes,
Gary, can't have all this sort of like Razzmatazz. Nah.
All these light shows. These light shows there before games, there, don't they?
Can you not see that?
Gary, all these changes, mate, are all about. They're all to improve the better teams, the Premier League. It's all about them, isn't it? It's not about no one else. All these changes they want to bring in is just focusing on them and making more money and making it more of an advertising spectacle for them. That's all it is. It's not. They don't care about everyone else. That's the problem.
We'll touch on poor old Scunthorpe in a bit as well, which again, another club going to the wall by the looks of it, which is a very sad time for all concerned with that club. But we'll touch on that in a bit. But
Nigel said about the players. Do you think the players, because they're more of a commodity now, they're worth so much, their old brand, they're in control of whether they play or not. They're protected in cotton wool, aren't they, themselves?
Yeah, they're all. To sum it up, Onig Solskjaer said, "I can't shout at certain players because they go under and things like that, And I think that's the way that they're being brought up. I mean, even from a lower level, at kids levels, we used to get shouted at when I was playing in the under-12s, but it didn't bother us, But you can't even do that now, and so the breed of footballers that we're bringing up, they're being taught how to play football, and technically, some of them are very good, but carrying injuries and stuff like that, I think as soon as they get an injury, it's like, I can't play. It seems like they've got to be 100% fit to play these days.
The cortisone, what the injections used to get years ago, Nigel, are they still a thing now, do you know?
Well, the cortisones were, as far as I knew, if you got to a cup final at the end of the season and it's your last game of the season and you've got an injury, but, you want to play, then you take the cortisone, even though you could aggravate your injury and, make it worse. But it was a once in a lifetime going to Wembley. So I know certain players, if they wanted to play that badly, they'd have the injection. But I don't think you'll get that these days. That just don't happen. And I'm not saying it's not for the good, but I just think, it was a tougher game in them days. You got used to being kicked. As a winger, I knew that I was going to get kicked about 5 or 6 times before the referee would even have a word with the player. So it's different these days. You could get sent off in the first minute.
Yeah,
that never happened in the older days.
No, I think Dan hit on the head a little bit. I mean, because back in your day, no disrespect, Nigel, you've talked openly about your sort of salary and all that. You guys weren't the money commodity these guys are today, and therefore, it's like, the value of these guys, the way the money's gone crazy in football, I guess has made it that they're treated with kid gloves, aren't they? Because of the value of a player. They're paying out millions of pounds for these players. They can't. Well, I did laugh with Chelsea. They brought that player in, all that money for that player till the end of the season, and he gets sent off. But anyway, that's my point. The amount of money they're spending on that player, for him to lose 3 games is a huge loss of money for Chelsea.
I think players have got more say in what happens now, whether they want to play or not and stuff. And I'll tell you what, it's not just at a professional level, because of the money that's flying about at the lower leagues, like, you know, the conference or that lot. I mean, there's players playing in them lower leagues that think they're better than what they are because they're getting paid $1.5 a week to play football, you know. So it's not just at the top level; it's gone right the way down to the bottom level with players earning stupid money.
I mean, we know for a fact there are players on $4,000 a week in the National League. There are players at clubs on $4,000 a week.
Cally, there's players at our level, and I've done for a lot of years, being on 4-figure wages a week. And remember, these are only part-time lads.
Yeah.
I mean, the money at our level is. I've actually been shocked when I've sort of like been given information about some of what these players are on, and you sort of like you can understand probably why the second division isn't as good as it used to be. That'd be the best way to put it. There's better players because they have a job, so they have a future outside football, and they're getting a part-time wage as well. It's incredible the wages paid down at our level. Absolutely.
It's amazing how the clubs are sustainable, isn't it, though? How do the clubs sustain it? You get some big crowds down there, don't you? But it's just not sustainable.
Dan, honestly, it's eye-watering what you hear about the likes of File, sort of like, you know, they're sort of like flying on at our level. You not so much at Kings Lynn, because I think they've had the fingers burnt. They've had to cut the budget. But you hear sort of like players, I would say down at our level, at where we are, your average part-time player is going to get about £500 a week. Yeah. For turning up for 2 training sessions a week. And on top of a good job.
Yeah.
and I think part of that is because the amount of money being generated at the top end of the game, the Premier League, it's sort of snowballing down that there's an expectancy from all who play football that they can earn a lot of money. But, you know, a good point raised by Ben, he follows Kidsgrove, Northern, I can't remember what league they're in now, but they're in Macclesfield.
Premier League or Premier Division 1, I think.
They played Macclesfield, yes. You know Macclesfield are one of the big boys in non-league football, working their way up after going out of business. But yeah, they played them yesterday, and they got a player on there who played against James Berry, his name. He's on $3,500 a week. And this is tier 6, 7?
Tier 1, 2, 3. I think it's tier 7.
He's saying that the whole Kidsgrove team are on $2,500 a week together. They had 1,200. They had 1,200 there yesterday. Good crowd. I suppose Macclesfield bought a lot. But
$2,500 combined their whole team's wage bill, and they had one player on 300. So I mean, I don't know where it all ends really, but
everyone's
more clubs going under.
The Premier League's making the people a lot of money at the minute, but they're still not happy with that. And then because the Super League come out, didn't it? That's what they wanted to bring an Esbin Kaibosh, but it just shows that I know they always want to make more money. That's how capitalism works, doesn't it? But where's it going to end? And it's just going to. And you are right. Getting back to your original question, there will be a complete split with maybe different types of football. There will be, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't care if they go off and do their thing. As long as we still got proper football, then.
Because the changes can't be afforded probably below championship level.
Of course they can't.
And probably after championship, to be fair. Most clubs run at a loss these days, and that's because generally player wages, but they do run at a loss. Northern Premier League West, and it's tier 8. Tier 8, and they've got a player on $3,500.
But there was a bit of a consensus, Gary, when the European Super League was being talked about, and I was one of them, and a lot of people were saying, well, we'll let them teams go off and do it and leave us to have our own football. Let them go and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be the best chance Palace would have winning the Premiership then, wouldn't it?
I did have selfish reasons for thinking.
I know you won that one.
Well, the trouble with that, John, I think if we'd allowed that to happen, what would have happened then? I think you would have started going lower down. You would have had Northern and Southern divisions. Then I could see that happening with the first and second divisions, and a Northern and a Southern. If you start, you can't allow teams to break away now. We've got to stand together and keep them in, because it will. I just feel if they had taken off, the backlash and that.
The problem would have gone away, would it? You still would have had an elite set. You've always had it in the 70s and 80s. You always had them teams at the top. It's always been there, isn't it?
You have nots. I think it's the way the haves at the moment seem to be wanting to change football beyond the recognition that we know it. 90 minutes of football, FA Cup replays, and all the other changes that are being put forward. The technology again that is changing the game. I mean, let's quickly touch on. I mean, the technology. We say about the mistakes at your level. Look, VAR. I mean, what happened yesterday with Rashford? I mean, come on.
Absolute joke, wasn't it? I mean, you only had to watch that on TV to know he was offside. I mean, what the hell is going on there? I mean, if you're talking about referees taking a bung, that's probably the obvious one there, isn't it?
You're going to have to help me. I've not seen it. Now, I don't know what angle this is at. I'm assuming it's this chap here who scored the goal. But clearly, I mean...
Rashford's run through. Rashford was well offside. He's run through. But then you can just see him coming in the picture there. Fernandes, he's then come across, changed the angle of the shot. So the keeper's, he's just bent it around the keeper's leg.
It rolled on.
Yeah, and it's...
He touched offside.
Yeah. But
is that not offside?
I think the rules they've got, that's not offside. But the rule is ridiculous. They need to change it because it did affect the players. It did affect the play.
The player off, didn't he? Thinking he's offside.
Is that not offside? Is the only reason I'm trying to get my head around this? I've only seen it twice. Because he stopped. Was it? Who's the? Is it Fred or somebody like that?
Fernandes.
Was then. I mean, surely he's distracting the defender. I'm just amazed it isn't offside. I can't get my head around it.
It didn't go to VAR either, did it? Why did it go to VAR?
I can't understand if it did go to VAR.
It didn't.
How they haven't given it offside.
Yeah, it didn't go to VAR. He just checked with the linesman.
It didn't go to VAR.
No, I don't think he went over. The linesman give the offside. Then the ref went to chat to the linesman, had a debate, and then they allowed the goal. I'm pretty sure it didn't go up to VAR. Did it not?
Wasn't there a goal the previous week, Salah for Liverpool, which was similar?
Didn't see that.
I've only heard about it. I've heard it discussed. But anyway, again, all these technical changes, the VAR and all that, it is changing football in an unbelievable way. I mean, VAR does, because you don't know whether you've scored or you're not. You've got to wait for the ref to definitely give the goal before you can celebrate, really. It's all this other changes.
I think it's not only changing football for the players, it's ruining it for the fans at the moment. They're seeing a goal going and they're just wondering whether they can celebrate or not. And so it's not just the football, it's the fans.
You agree, Nigel?
That's why I'm happy Palace haven't scored for 4 games.
You lads must have to look at the linesman first when you're celebrating. That must be the first thing you do. They're looking at goal score.
Even the girl who scored the winner for the England ladies, I mean, she's gone off to celebrate and then she stopped because she's thinking, has he give the goal or not? And then, it's just ridiculous.
It's taken that euphoria out of the game of when you score a goal, which is why everyone gets into football. That euphoric moment has been taken away slightly. I mean, you can still go mad, but then it can work the other way when the other team gets a goal disallowed. But they can't get it right. That's the problem as well.
And it's the time, Dan. Sometimes the time that they take making that decision is. I mean, I've seen it doesn't go into sort of like half a minute or a minute. Sometimes it's going into a couple of minutes.
Yeah, at least.
Can't be right.
Yeah.
Just let you know, chaps.
It's kicking off.
Extra.
Have you seen that? It's kicking off for Arsenal and Spurs. Full-time whistle's gone and something's gone on between the players.
Good old London, good old derby.
Arsenal, wasn't it? 2-0 Arsenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
win for them again.
He just kicked off about a minute ago with the players.
And Notts County got knocked out by Maidstone in the FA Trophy and all.
Did they?
Yeah, they lost 6-5 on penalties, 2-2. And then Maidstone won 6-5 on penalties. So I don't know what I'd like to get a bit more feedback from people who are on. Do you agree, disagree? Are we going to see 2 different formats of football in the long run, or is that the future for our game? The game that we certainly a game that I didn't buy into when I fell in love with football, and long live the lower leagues and the non-league. That's what I say. But hey, Ben's had I keep saying we must get Ben on the show. He has a lot to say. I'm just trying to say I don't mind VAR, but when they look at VAR and still make the mistake, this is true, and they do. They VAR seems to cock it up from time to time, doesn't it? For me, Mike the referees up like they do in rugby, and you can hear what the discussion is between the officials and hear the sense of the thinking. Okay, works in rugby and it works in football, and it would stop players running over the officials and giving them utter abuse. Okay, so but would that not just be more change in football? That everyone's in the ground listening to and again, would that follow through into lower league football? I can't see money allowing for that. But look, okay, so look, we've spent enough time on it now, so I think the gist of it is what it is. But I'm just going to ask you directly, Nigel, do you see the future? Do you think there will be 2 formats of football in the future? Just yes or no?
Well, the way it's going, I wouldn't rule it out. We just seem intent on changing the game at the moment. So I definitely think, obviously, like we're saying, football clubs have become businesses now. So when you're an owner of a business, you want it to grow and grow and grow. And I can't see any way that there's not going to be a Super League eventually. You know, you're going to have the top teams from Europe in it, because it's all about money now. It's not about the football club and the tea lady and the laundry lady. It's all about money now. No, so I think it will happen.
Yeah. What do you reckon? Do you reckon you could see it a 2-tier, not 2-tier? We got that already, but a 2 formats of football.
Well, I hope not, because it's so difficult. It's all right if they change it, but it's so difficult, like Cally says, to take it down to our level. So you can't have 2 different formats. We all play under one set of rules, one set of supposedly guidelines. You don't. They're fiddling with it too much, and to be fair, I think they'll put people off.
Dan, what do you think? Short answer, please.
I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. I think everything's been drip fed in. No, since the Premier League come in, it's been a lot's changed in 20, 30 years, but it's been drip fed. But the Super League, I don't want a short answer, but it'll be short. The European Super League was like a massive change that came in, and then the government come in and helped to stop it, didn't they? There was a massive furore. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. The fan power. When fans get together, we're a strong unit of people, so it's not going to happen.
But I think I think the fan base is fragmented. It's beginning to. And I think you're young enough to see it, so don't write yourself off too quickly. You are the puppy in the room. Linda, how are you, sir? Football has become too commercialised and no longer working class. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Right, okay. I did say with John Scunthorpe, what a crying shame again with the amount of money we're talking about in football, the amount of money these players are getting, ridiculous amounts of money from top to bottom. And the direct result is people like Scunthorpe winding up. I'm going to show you a clip of protests. I know we all said about, people not getting on the pitch, but I think in this situation it's justified. And I say that because the one thing about the Berries the Macclesfields as they were when they went under. Now the Scunthorpes and other clubs that are going to the wire in non-league. You know, we talk about it's all become about money, it's a business and all that. But the lower down you go, it's not. It's about the community and what they do and the community. In Scunthorpe now, you take their club away, you almost destroy a community. And I think that's forgotten. When we see about these clubs going under, you've got to understand that the whole of Scunthorpe will be in, or a large part of it will be in pain. You know, you went through some real bad times with Darlington, and it affects the whole community. I've just got some footage of their protest. Yes, I'll quickly show you it. So the joyous singing was from the away fans, by the way, not from them. But they obviously took over the centre circle of the pitch in protest. It's just heartbreaking. I've been to Scunthorpe, and it's heartbreaking. You know, they're part of their community, and that community is going to lose. Any views?
Yeah,
over 130 years old. Isn't it?
I mean, I've been used to being going. I mean, I didn't even go far back when they played at the old showground, Scunthorpe, before they had the new ground. And the likes of Scunthorpe were always similar to my club. They're a proper football club, run by basically local people and chairmen over the years. But unfortunately, they've had, and to be fair, they've had quite a bit of success because it wasn't that many years ago. They were actually in the Championship playing Newcastle.
I went up there. Yeah. They got
on a Tuesday.
Turnstiles for a big lad like me. It didn't work very well.
Yeah, and it's awful to see, but it just looks as if, like Dan mentioned about dripping. It just seems they've stretched and stretched and stretched, trying to reach goals that they weren't going to get back to, and now unfortunately they've got a chairman like we had, who's full of promises and hasn't got the money to back it by the sound of it. I mean, I don't know the exact ins and outs, but that's, you know, he's promised bits and bobs. And once you get into that circle of sort of like losing games like they have, I mean, it's not just over this season. I mean, last season they were abysmal. I mean, I was quite shocked last year when I saw, I think it was the season went down, when I saw at Christmas how far down they were. I thought, you're going out. And when you come out, and if no one should ever think getting into that conference is a doddle, because
no.
There's, if you count up, I think my last count was there's either 16 ex-league clubs in there, and they all want the same. They all want to get back into the league to get the money and the payments and that. And it is a crime. I feel for their supporters because they've got a hardcore support of probably around about 3,000, and really, they're going to have to go through the pain because it looks like they're going to go down again. I mean, for them to get out of the position they are now.
Right. Winding up order given to them now, isn't they?
Yeah, but you can, the winding up order, it's an awful thing when it happens, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can regroup. You go down, obviously, you go down to grassroots, but really.
I was to say, it depends how far down you go, because I've seen it happen with Rushden and Diamonds. It's happened with Bury. It's happened with Macclesfield. You know, when they go under, completely cut off. It's not like just dropping down into, shall we say, National League North. They're going to have to drop down into absolute tier, God knows whatever.
Like we did, Gary. We went down to the Northern League. We went down to playing Ashington on a Tuesday night and concert, and actually it brings you go about the community thing. It actually brings everybody together. I've got lads who they wouldn't go when we were in the conference because of the regime and everything, but we went down to the Northern League and everyone come together. We were taking like 700 or 800 to these Northern League grounds. I mean, it was pretty local, let's be honest. You know, your furthest trip away was probably an hour and a half in the car or something like that. But it started a momentum. And obviously, we got promoted, then you go up again and you get used to winning.
So I mean,
you've hit the nail on the head there. Jeff's hit the nail on the head. The Stockport have done £27 million they've lost £27 million in the last decade. Scunthorpe, which is a ridiculous amount of money, and they're going to go down. And if they do, and I've just written an article about Hereford becoming the latest club owned by the fans club, joining a list of about 45 others. And Hereford went out of business. Hereford United, and now Hereford FC. But now they've got the fans own the club, and like Geoff said, it then brings the community back together. Then they build again. So sometimes you don't want to hit rock bottom, but that's got to happen sometimes. And then you've got then you've got the structure of the fans owning the club, which is the way football should be anyway. I think
they've got great. It hasn't worked. Russian Diamonds were put so low down. They was in United Counties League Division 2. They were playing the village side. They had a great at the beginning. You know, they knocked down Lean Park and whatever. They were playing down the local one down here where I live. And to be fair to them, they've made their way back up to Southern League now, which is great. But they've lost a huge fan base. They initially, like you say, and this is what I mean. I think maybe with a lot of clubs, if you've got 3,000 or 4,000, which Rushden had, they're probably getting gates of 400 now and all that. They had a lot more when they first went under. But it's the length of time it takes you to get up the leagues. You're going to cut a whole generation of fans out.
I think as well, Gary, I think, you know, when they've gone from where they was down to the basement level, I mean, fans, it's not going to be because they're at basement level. It's because of the standard of football they're going to have to watch. And like, you know, Russian and Diamonds might be beating teams 8-0 at that level, you know. And if you're a football fan, you don't want to go and see a match where one team can play and the others can't. And, you know, you're playing a village team, that's what it's going to be in it. So as a supporter of football, you're just going to think this isn't worth going to watch.
I mean, it's worked for Macclesfield. Obviously, their support's flourished. I think
the Berry girl,
amazing support, but there are a lot of clubs that don't necessarily work for. Like Rushden's one of them, in my view. They still
look at Berry girl.
Lost a lot of fans. Sorry,
Berry went bust, didn't they? Now then an AFC Berry started up, but it split the fans there. The Berry. The new Berry of own Gig Lane, but AFC Berry, are a different club, and they're all voting at the minute. It's a complete mess, an utter mess. There's a vote, and then they didn't get the vote they wanted, so they're doing it again. So that's completely divided the community within itself. That is, which is which is ridiculous.
The problem is, again, like we say, Nigel's made the point: the quality of foot. I mean, like I say, Russian Diamonds are playing sides like Olney Town, Desborough. The village clubs.
I think if you're a supporter of your town's club, you're still going to go. If you're winning 8-0 or 9-0, you can still go.
You've got to remember, Gary, that you've got only. It won't go for so long because you've only got, even though we went down to that level, you've only got X amount of budget, and you can only you've got a smaller pool of players. You're not dipping into, you know, as you get further up, you can branch out. But they are quite competitive games, you know. You don't just sail through them. We had to get through in the playoffs.
I genuinely believe it will work for some, it won't work for all. And I believe if you drop them as low down as they did with Rushden, it's going to take 10 years to even get back into the national leagues.
Easily.
And by that
the issue
time,
we've got to look at. The issue we've got to look at is why this keeps happening in the clubs. These proper fit and persons tests. I mean, someone can get a club, and then I think this Peter Swan, who's the chairman of or the owner of Scunthorpe, he's suing a gambling company he owes them millions. He's done millions of pounds with this gambling company, so he's taken them to court to sue them because they should have stopped him betting or something like. So he might have been fit and proper. Then he's got a gambling problem. I don't know if that's the reason they've gone to shit, but the reason we've got to talk about and fix is these people. The people that hold them, these people get in charge of clubs who shouldn't have nothing to do with football. Even in the Premier League, even in the Championship, you get people come in, Birmingham. These people shouldn't be anywhere near football because the rules ain't strong enough. There should be legislation that stops these. But it's not as easy as said and done, isn't it? The money's there to be made. That's what attracts these people.
The trouble is, Dan, they come in and they sell you the dream. They say they're going to do X, Y, Z, and they've got all the backing. And obviously, we
all want them, didn't you?
We're the prime example. There's a 25,000 seater stadium outside Darlington.
Yeah.
And he's just
exactly. And I bet when George Reynolds, when he come in and he's got all these dreams, the fans fall for it because a lot of Newcastle fans, although they've got Saudi Arabia behind them, but you lose your soul a bit because you think, we're going to get millions, we're going to buy all these top players, and all of a sudden you just lose what football's all about, really, didn't you? We're all guilty of it, I guess. But
I'm going to move us along because we're running out of time, and I'm going to try and cheer us up a little bit. But quickly, I just want to take that off to Geoff's team, Darlington, who they did lose, unfortunately, in the FA Trophy yesterday. But they travelled all the way down to Southend. And look, there you go. FA Trophy, Darlington, what a journey they had to make that. Fair play. Got to take me out to them. Well done, Geoff.
Thoughts out to the Darlington player, Geoff.
Yeah, Paddy Armand. I had a message this afternoon. He's obviously going in. He's been well looked after. He was going in for an operation to try and take, I think, the pressure off the brain. He's been unfortunate because he was on the books of Sunderland and he was in a car crash, and he's got back, and he's only a young lad. I think he's only 21, 22, something like that. And he has. 20, I think. We've basically, I think we've only just signed him at Christmas.
What happened?
And he's a good.
He went off with concussion in the 50th minute. And then he's got a bleed on the brain.
That was it.
About to do an operation.
It was complete accident. No, as far as I know, there's no one to blame. But he's, like I say, thoughts go out and just hope he's, it comes back because he doesn't deserve that. He's battled back, but fingers crossed he'll come back and play for us.
Yeah.
Right, gentlemen, you get ready with your little stories. I'm going to cheer us all up with the funnies. Okay, so a bit of a mixed bag of funnies today. Let's start with this one.
Actie 4. Oh, kan ook. Omhoog!
Yeah!
No, do you know what? That was from last week.
Very similar to last week's, that
one. Never mind. Right, okay. So Dorking played, we're talking about Oldham. We mentioned Oldham a minute ago. So they played Dorking down at Dorking this week. And we did say we picked up a few funny things with the new chairman of Oldham Athletic. He's a proper character. And we did say we'd keep an eye on any more of his karaoke wonders. And but we got a couple of shots from yesterday's game. Dorking 5-1 whooping off of Oldham. Let's start, though, with... he's great. The Oldham chairman.
Frank Rothwell.
Here we go.
You will never settle down, cause where the girls are, well, you know that I'm around. I hug them and I squeeze them, to me they're all the same. I hug them and I tease them, they don't even know my name, they call me the Wanderer. I roam around the round.
So, mate, he's so funny, that guy. And
keeping it real. That's a proper German.
Oh, man, he gets in the bar with the fans every time they go away, and
Is it Frank Rothwell? His name, isn't it? I think.
Oh, we've had a few. Yeah. It's really funny. But I'm going to play now a clip of the owner of Dorking Wanderers, Mark White, and mate, this guy's done a phenomenal job with this club, by the way. But this is quite comical. This is a post-match interview.
There's no way of dressing up the situation, in honesty, Oldham have won 5-1 because we are shit at defending.
Say what you think.
We've had to cheer everyone up a little bit after the doom and gloom that we've been talking about. That's a great way to cheer everyone up. Two great club owners there. And
can I just add something, girl?
Hey,
Ben Cliff's mentioned it as well. But the Dorking chairman, Mark White, every home game he goes to the local pubs and puts 300 or 400 quid behind the bar. He done it to the Oldham fans 2 weeks ago. He's done it to the Wrexham fans. He does it every time, which is fantastic.
And then when he's told, well, what do you reckon of the game? Well, we're a part of shit in defence. We can't get more honest than that. Fans got no room for. Do you reckon you could play under an owner like that, Nige?
Well, he just says what he thinks, doesn't he? Really, and it's probably the truth. So I played under GT for a long time, so he didn't pull any punches.
Right, one more.
Yeah. Richtig.
Okay, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to play that again because there's more to that, and I'm not quite sure why that's not played the full thing. Let me just try it again.
Yeah. Richtig.
Okay, that's a shame. I know, Ben, if you're listening, Ben Higgins, I'll have to have a chat with you after because you've done some outrageous
I think that was it, girl.
Stuff's not kicking in properly. Right. Anyway, miss of the season, that, innit? There was a bit more to it than that, unfortunately, but there you go. We still got the miss. What a miss that was. Right. Okay. So let's have some of this.
It's all over. It is now. It's 4. And Charlton.
There you go. The days. Right.
Well,
nice. So hey,
I'm going to kick this off. Right. I'm going to kick this off. While we're on the subject of the chairman saying they were crap and all that lot, I played in a match against Notts Forest at the Forest ground, and Brian Clough was manager. And I'm on the wing, on the right wing, on the side of the dugouts, and they got a left winger called Walsh playing on the other side of the pitch, and he's just put about 3 crosses over the bar, out of play and everything. And Cluffy's out of his seat and he's going, Walsh, and he was ignoring him, like, so he went, Walsh. He's told one of the players to poke him like that, and he's turned around and Cluffy's gone, you're fucking crap. And then he just held his number up and hauled him off. It was just the fact that he went, you're crap. And then he just held his number off and off he went. Brian Clough, what a character.
Mate, that's some character, wasn't it, eh? Oh, dear.
I was laughing my head off. He was literally on the touchline shouting at him, and because he wouldn't turn around. I think it was Steve Watch had to go and poke him like Gaffer once. He went, "You're crap, get out."
Brilliant. Right, Geoff, go on, mate. Give us a story.
I've just with Cally saying that, I've just thought about one about George Reynolds. We're playing an evening game. Can't remember who it was against now. And Gary Bennett and Jim Montgomery, they were our managers and assistant manager. And I think we were getting beat 1-0 or something like that. And I can't remember who was on the bench. But George Reynolds walks down the stand, comes out of his box, walking down, behind dugout, turns around to Gary, taps on the dugout, says, chatting away about bringing a sub on. Jim Montgomery gets up, turns around, and tells him to F off as loud as you can. Everyone in the stand must have heard him. Just tells him to F off. George turns around, and George Reynolds, he was quite a big character. Normally, he was bit, but he just toodled back up steps, back to his box out that way. But it just came to me when Cally was on then. But that's I will always remember that one.
So I'm just catching up with quite a few comments there, actually. But right, Daniel, go on, give us one.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know. I just thought we were talking to my brother the other day. We decided to go up to see Palace at Shrewsbury. This was years ago, back in the late 80s. It was a last minute call, about 12 o'clock. It was a 3 o'clock kickoff. So we thought, we'll get there all right. So we've we lived in South London, so we've gone down the M4 wrongly. You should go up M1, M6 to Shrewsbury's like North Wales. Anyway, we've gone down the M4, up the M5. We thought it was the way. Then we've realised we've gone wrong, so we've cut off, and now we're going through the Brecon Beacons, all these mountains, stuck behind a tractor in this country lane, couldn't get behind it, and now it's about the second half's kicking on. Now we're losing 3-2, and we've got the Gay Meadow as it was in, and we've parked up, rushed down in it. There's about 2 minutes left of the game. Took us 5 hours to get there, and as we're going down, we've lost the game. We was losing, and we've seen our mates. They're walking out their way in. They've had enough. They're walking out, and before they could see us, we've quickly dived in the Omen, and just walked in the Omen, stood in it. The ref blew the final whistle, and then we walked back out again. 5.5 hours journey. That's proper football for you, isn't it?
Okay, here's this one. This is funny. So we were going to Bournemouth, and I was in the car. I was in the back seat, and there was 4 or 5 of us in the car. I can't remember now. And it was awful. The weather, the rain was just one of them where the guys' blowers were struggling to keep the windows demisted with all us lot in the car as well. See, so the windows are proper misted up and all that. And the rain was horrendous. Anyway, I don't know if you've been down, you come down the M3, then it splits and you go M27 towards Portsmouth and then M27 to Bournemouth and Southampton. So anyway, mate, he's just driving, right? And the fucking rain's coming down. It was all misted up. Anyway, he's gone, guys, I think I'm lost. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, that's right. I've wiped the condensation off my window, and I'm looking at a fucking battleship in the bleeding water. We're in Portsmouth Harbour. I'm like that, and I'm looking over, and there's like all this water, like with the harbour water, and we're on the road, and there's like these navy ships, and I'm like, oh my god. But it was bad that day. But yeah, I think I'm lost, guys.
Did you make the kickoff?
So listen, I said it was kicking off in Arsenal.
We missed out. Yeah. It's the pub.
Guys, I said it was kicking off in Arsenal. What's happened is Ramsdale, the goalkeeper, he's got the Tottenham fans behind his goal. They're giving him a bit of stick, and he's sort of deliberately time wasting a little bit with his kick. And I think he's kicking the ball, and the referee's blown for full time. He's turned around to the fans and started kissing his badge. Richarlison comes over, and then shock. He wants to start a bit of trouble. They separate them. They should separate them. Ramsdale goes up behind the goal to pick his gloves up, and one of the spectators has managed to climb onto the fence and take a swipe at him with his foot, tried to kick him. So that's all gone off after that.
It begs the question, though. I mean, look, fans are being told you can't do this, you can't do that, and yet, rightly so in a lot of cases. I don't agree with everything they're saying. You can't stand up, can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do. You eat your popcorn and watch your game of football. Surely the players have got to, in some ways, curb what they do in front of fans. Particularly in such a hot-blooded derby as Tottenham Arsenal. The fans are getting proper chastised all the time. And they're obviously trying to sterilise the game, in my view, with the fans. But, some of it's justified, obviously. But the players surely have got a responsibility to be dealt with if they're going to encourage or goad fans who are at a heightened level of anger because they're losing to their local rivals. I mean, what do you think? I mean, what ex-player Nigel should have?
Well, especially in the derbies. I mean, I'm not knocking foreign players, right? But they come over here and they play for teams like Arsenal, Tottenham, and they have got no idea at all about how special and how the rivalry is with derbies, all right? So they don't realise that by kissing the badge, when their team's 2-0 down and you're goading the away fans who are on a losing team, they don't realise that I know people that won't go to work for a week because if they're a Tottenham fan they're working with Arsenal fans and they're going to get it for the whole week.
Yeah.
It means that much to them. So these foreign players that are coming over here and they know it's a derby match and now it's a big match. They just don't realise how special and how big it is for the fans. And that's the problem. And, like I've seen that happen when I went to watch Brentford versus Millwall. And Gary Roberts went from Millwall to Brentford. I was actually watching Ian Bolton because he left Watford to go to Brentford. And Brentford got a penalty and it was down the Millwall end. And Roberts went up to take the penalty. And obviously the Millwall fans were giving him a bit of stick and all that. Well, he stuck the penalty away. And he's done exactly the same thing. He's kissed the badge, giving it all that to the fans. One of the fans ran on and tried to hit him. And by now, you've got a stadium that's just going mad now, all right? After the match, there was cars, windscreens were put in, tyres were burst. And that provoked that reaction. And I think there's got to be something done about it.
Clive Allen done that at Palace QPR back in the 80s. He went to QPR from us and he stuck two fingers up. He ran the whole length for the ground, stuck two fingers up the Palace, and it caused the full scale riot on the pitch. Fans come up.
Palace QPR.
But I do think that fans give the players stick all through the game, don't they? The songs, and I think I don't mind players giving it back. To be honest, I think you've got
the players, the fans now are getting chastised for the smallest thing.
No, fair point. I see what you mean. Yeah,
I think it's horrible what's happening in football, the sterilisation of atmosphere and everything. Yeah. Yes, all right, there is a degree of it that needed stopping, but you've got the tribalism, the whatever.
You're inciting the fans, aren't you?
Well, that lad who's taking a kick at the player, he's taking a kick at Ramsey. That's on TV. He's going to get banned for life now. So his team that he likes to support, he's gone now.
Yeah, if the authorities want to make an example of him, he'll be in prison. And that's what I mean, Dan. It's like now
banning orders. The new results come out of banning orders, didn't they? They're up by a massive percentage. Although the figures are a bit skewed. That Mark Roberts, the head of the police, and he's an idiot. I can't stand it. He's just so against fans. Against fans. He's from West Yorkshire or South Yorkshire Police, and they've got a terrible record. I mean, as we all know, Hillsborough. But these figures of banning orders, they go back from COVID. It's all like the courts were delayed and all that. So a lot of these figures they're giving out are all skewed. That's from over a couple of years. So don't believe all you hear about this banning order stuff. They're not. It's not. It's getting. Trouble hasn't gone away, but it's not as bad as they're making it out. It's just batting the fans again. That's all they're doing.
This is so clear though. You can see the fan. I mean, it's on TV. So they're going to have to do something about it. He hasn't got a chance.
No, he's fucked. He's proper done now. That fan. He really is. He's gonna. He will definitely cop a lifetime ban, if not a criminal conviction.
He had a proper kick at his head. He tried to kick his head.
There's no excuse for that, is there?
Knowing what he's done at all. But again, we still have that degree of passion that puts people in a very odd. You go behind a goal. It's like back in the 80s when they were trying to understand hooliganism stuff. They would send these specialists. They'd come out and say, as soon as I got behind that goal in amongst that atmosphere, it made me aggressive. It made that, and he weren't even. And that's the. So I don't know. Players.
David Lovegrove's made a great point there. If the fans give it to the players, if you can't take it, don't give it. And he's right. It's like people get upset. The woke fans being woke. I know we hate that word, but you're giving players abuse all the time. If the player gives it back, I think it's great. I think it's funny.
No, but you're missing my point, Dan. Totally missing my point.
I completely get your point. I get your point. You're saying that the fans are being suppressed.
The fans are getting battered for every little thing. They're not allowed to do nothing. They're trying to sterilise the atmospheres.
Yeah, no, I get all that. I get that.
Should the players take some responsibility if they're going to go fans? I'm all for it, mate. I'm all for that atmosphere in atmosphere in grounds. I think it's wonderful.
But the fans are plebs for running on and trying to kick him in the head at the end of the day. You can't excuse that. He's an idiot.
No, completely. I mean that's way above.
I wouldn't do that.
Not only what he's done, but one of the
lads has said typical Spurs he missed.
But no, what that fan's done is ridiculous. Like I say, my only point is the fans are getting proper done in. And unfortunately, I listen too much to Talk Sport, which is a bag of shit, by the way that's going. And you listen to them and the way they dig the fans out, some of them, Jim White and people like that, they dig the fans out like rotten. And you think, well, hang on a minute, what about the behaviour of the players then? And all they want to do is dig fans out all the time. And that's the only point I was making was, if they're going to beat the fuck out, sorry for my language, I get upset about things like this, but if they're going to beat the fans up all the time and make you eat your popcorn while you watch the game, then the players, what the players are doing is showing that there's still passion in football. So I'm not disagreeing that they shouldn't have a bit of a banter with the fans. Great, because then give it back. But I mean, how many times are we seeing now players crying their eyes out because they've had a bit of banter?
I mean, it was great to see the passion from the Everton fans yesterday that stopped back, concerned about their football club.
Yeah.
And what's going on. I mean, that was, did they stop about an hour after the game and they had to ask them to leave, protesting about what's going on. I mean, I couldn't care less about Everton, but it was good to see that they were that passionate, they're that concerned. Hopefully it goes on to the board, it gets onto the board, because that's a club in trouble. And you don't want to see a club like that sort of like going down it. Well, they go down to the Championship, they deserve it.
It's all so frustrating. It's so. I mean, I'm talking quite openly now. I look at it all, and I just don't know where football's going to end up. I'm old school. I bought into the atmosphere and the knees up on the terraces. That's what I love. That's what I fell in love with. The banter. Okay. Some of it was cruel, and maybe
you nailed it earlier, girl. You nailed it, and you said there's the fans are split now. There's fans we've got everyone in your camp. I'm in your camp. Most people we know are in your camp, but there's other people who only been going the last 10, 15 years who don't see it our way, do they?
Yeah, well, you remember, Dan, now, especially in the Premiership, it's a family game, isn't it?
Yeah.
I went to football in the early 70s, right way through. Women and kids, there weren't that many of them there. No. But it was male dominated, and you could get away with anything. It was like some of this stuff that, I mean, now I look back and I think we used to do that. And we watched football behind cages. I mean, that's just unreal. And that's even down, you were talking 4th division level, you're watching the game behind a cage. That's how bad it was. I mean, I know they're going about the good old days, but there's some real bad bits in there that I'm glad.
I mean, look, I'm a dinosaur. I ain't going to deny it. Everyone knows it, right? And I don't like modern day football. I absolutely hate it. And I'm quite open about it. But you are right. There's certain elements of back then that you wouldn't want to see again.
No.
Without a doubt, I'm on about the violence. I'm on about the actual what used to go on some of the terraces.
The toilets, the refreshments.
I sort of...
the piss coming down the terraces.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Mate, do I wash my hands?
Yeah.
Hey, there was no COVID then, was there?
Yeah. But the problem is, for those of us that were brought up on that, I think seeing the way that they're trying to sterilise the support now, it's hard, isn't it? And then you see the changes they're making. And I struggle to support my club now because I don't like how much money these players get and stuff like that. So I really struggle the whole modern day thing. I really do. Really struggle.
And the thing in them days, Gary, you could have contact with, I don't know what about your level, but our level, even in them days, I could see the players. I could chat to the players. They were accessible. Nowadays, you have no chance.
Oh, look, Nigel's renowned for clearing out the gambler in the supporters club, mate. I got told stories, see, about Nigel, and He'd been there in the supporters club on the old gambling machine, mate. And they'd say,
I was getting the pies.
Hey?
We used to get our steak and kidney pies. There was apprentices then. So, like, we had to clean the dressing rooms and all that. So, one of us would nip up and get the pies from the supporters club.
I remember going to get my tickets for Brighton away, and I went down. I was going down there anyway, so I popped in the old ticket office that used to be along Occupation Road, and I went in, and we just played Luton away, which was always a feisty experience. And John Barnes and Luther Blissett were sat in talking to the office girls, and I'm in there getting my ticket, and I'm like a little bit starstruck at the time, like, you know, youngster. And, oh, look, Luther. And I look at it, they were saying they made more money picking the coins up off the pitch than they did for the days. Well, but you could. I think you couldn't. I've said this many times now. If you look like Nigel joining us, and Nigel, is it okay to say we might have on next week?
99.9%. I've got Steve Terry on next week.
So
and
Hull and Northampton.
Yeah, and for next month, Steve Sherwood and Tony Coton have both said they don't mind coming on. So they'll have a few stories.
Would we see this in 20 years' time from this current batch of players? Would we see them do? Tony Coton, mate, what a goalkeeper he was, you know.
Great keeper.
Who did he play? Birmingham, Man City? He's from Birmingham, isn't he?
Yeah, when he came from Birmingham to Watford, he was on a GBH charge. And he said, Graham Taylor, he said the speech he gave at the court, he said, I'm pretty sure I'd have been in jail if it weren't for the gaffer. But we was told, sort of when he came, we was told if he goes out after a match with you to the nightclub, if anyone's trying to wind him up, because he could handle himself, Coates. So if anyone tries to wind him up, you've got to look after him.
Charge as well. So, yeah, I know a few Birmingham lads. And, yeah, he can handle himself. But again, he's a player, Man City, Man United goalkeeping coach.
Yeah, coached at Man United, didn't he?
Will we see this in 20 years' time from today's players? They live in Planet Zog. Yeah.
I think the players that are still in love with the game will always do it. You know, like I love talking about football. I still love watching it. There's some players that are picking up big money now. They'll probably retire and won't want to have anything to do with football. But there'll be the other footballers that have made a lot of money that still, they want to be in football.
Ben Foster does his own podcast.
I was just about to do that, Dan. I think it's brilliant. Some of his podcasts.
Honestly,
I was interested. Did you watch the one where he was on about they have a steamer now for the football boots? They put the football boots in a steamer. I thought, are you taking the mickey here? and none of the academy lads do any chores around the ground or anything.
No.
And they're not getting grounded, they're being like pampered. I mean, let's be honest, most of them are going to be out of football by, there's not many of them come through and
we used to have to report at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd have to clean the boots, a couple of players' boots that we used to clean all the time. We'd have to pack the skip, get it into the van. We was in the transit van with the bench seats, go up to Stanmore where we trained at, put all the kit out, put all the balls out, everything. And then once everything was set up for the professional players, then we went over to the other side of the pitch and we done our training. And afterwards, you'd have to clean the dressing rooms again. And, that's what it was. And you expected to do it. That was part of learning how it goes down at the football clubs. You had to earn your respect, and that was how it was always done. But now they turn up, they train, and they go home, don't they?
They're millionaires before they've even played in the first team. Some of them, don't they?
Yeah, we've said this before, haven't it? Like, 17-year-old and they're driving around in Lamborghinis. And
can I just give a shout out to Shane Clark, who's just said hello. He's one of the Cheshunt and Nook players. When I did that first vlog I did for Proper Football Away Days, Cheshunt, and he was there forward that day. Hello, Shane. I don't know if you're still at Cheshunt, mate, but yeah, thanks for tuning in. He was a really good player, actually. He's done really well. I know his uncle. I know his granddad, I think. Anyway, sorry, mate. Back to you.
No, cool. No, yeah. Join us again. Come on. Come on as a guest. Tell us about your experiences of playing Chesterton.
That's not tier 9, but yeah.
No.
Proper community club.
League not helping sides like they did with Colton Town. I'm in leagues that they Colton Town have got £11,000 more expense this year because the league decided, we're going to move you from the Midlands. Colton are based in Nottingham into the North East, up your manor. They play all the sides up your manor. They appealed it, and the league said, no, you're going up there because we need to make the league up to a certain number, and regardless of what the extra expense will be and the effect on keeping your players, which we found out through Chesterton. They had 84 players on their book because of the amount of travelling they had to do. Sorry, chaps, we've gone way over again, but that only means that we're having nice conversations. There you go. I think Aldershot, this fella. I think he's Aldershot. Look, they will never tame us. But yeah, so right, okay, we're gonna have to wrap it up. Great. It's great to see some homegrown academy players at Watford coming through. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Next week, hopefully, 99.9% Steve Terry will be joining us. That's Hull, Northampton, and Watford. Played with you in the cup final, didn't he?
Yeah. Played. I think he was a centre back with Steve Sims. Steve Sims, Neil Price left back. Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know when they say put your head in where it hurts? Yeah, that's what he was. He stuck his head in where the boots were to get goals, and that's how he got stitches in his head a couple of times. And they just said, look, you're gonna have to wear some protection now because it's keeping opening up.
Be interesting to understand how that affected him. We know with all the conversation heading the ball now and stuff. I'd be interested to see what that did, how it affected his game and whatnot. But anyway, we've gone way over. Listen, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in, joining in. We really, really do appreciate it. Please join us again next Sunday. Quickly round the table, last word from Nigel.
I enjoyed it this week. Hopefully next week's going to be another good one. And good result for Watford and Derby this week. Yeah,
it was. The only one result I will mention and what I thought was really good was Rotherham against Blackburn, 4-0. That was a big result. Rotherham languishing down the bottom, Blackburn doing really, really well. 4-0. Wow.
We forgot to mention Brighton as well, didn't we? Forgot to mention Brighton.
Right, lads. Have a great week.
Jeff, thank you so much. I hope you'll come on again. Thank you for coming on 2 weeks on the trot. You've been brilliant. So, we'd love to have you back more regular if you're up for it.
No problem.
It's been a pleasure having you on, really. And it's great to have a non-league representation. That's really good.
We need a programme with Cally and music.
And you're not with us next week, Dan, are you?
No, I'm back on the footplate, turning the old wheels around next week on the railway, so I won't be on.
No wrong turns or no overrunning the stations. Right, okay. Thank you, everyone. Look, please keep a good eye on our website, www, as you can see along the bottom there, properfootball.co.uk. Loads and loads of good stuff going on at the moment. Dan's flat out with Simon and others, all working very hard to bring you some good bits. And we've got a lot more going on as well. So
I'm on Mixcloud as well later on.
Hold on.
I'll remind you of
that. Yeah. Let's bring him up. Oh, you're enough slow this week. What's going on?
Yeah,
there we go. There you go. If you want to listen to Nigel every night of the week from 9 o'clock generally, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, that's right.
Banging tunes from Mr. Nigel. And watch out. I keep saying I'm going to do an interview with him and we'll find out a lot more about his DJing days as well as his football days. That will happen once my workload calms down a bit. Right. Okay, that's it from us then, folks. We'll catch you all next week. Be safe. Be warm. We've got a real cold snap heading our way.
The proper football live show. Sundays at 6 p.m. for your football fix on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and PF Radio. Check out our website at